Okay, so this is just work with Mamadou content, which is here. Okay, let's start with TWIF. So this is maybe the most popular graph parameters. And it measures the tree likeness of a graph. And it is very nice because for many NPR problems, we have an efficient FPT algorithm. So FPT is some function of the parameter times some polynomial on the instance size. And moreover, we can approximate the tree width of a graph efficiently also. So it is very nice. But the thing is that tree width is unbounded whenever you take a graph class which is dense. For example, the tree width of a clique is n minus 1, so the number of vertices minus 1. And the problem is that dense graph can be sampled also. And many NPR problems are tractable in some dense graph classes. And for this, we have other width measures, so like clique width, rank width, or mean width. And this talk is about them. So the idea behind this is always the same. So you take a graph and you divide and conquer. So divide, you recursively decompose your graph into, so for example, you can cut the vertex set in two recursively. And you do that in such a way that each time, for each cut, the neighborhood between the two parts are simple. And of course, there is different notion of simplicity, and this means that you have different width measures. And for example, if you take the okay, so to describe the simplicity of a cut, we use a function which takes a cut and gives an integer. And for example, we can take the number of vertices that have at least one neighborhood in this part, or something like that. And the width of decomposition is it's the maximum of the width of the cuts of your decomposition, right? And the width of the graph is the minimum among all the decomposition of your graph. And okay, so we have a formalism for that. We have, in fact, a lot of formalism, different formalism, but here's one. So it is rooted layout. So you have a tree and a bijection between the leaves of the tree and the vertices of your graph. And each time you take a node of your tree, you have a vertex set on your graph. Like for example, the vertex set associated to this node is V1, V3, and V4. So, so there is this cut associated to this node. And so basically, this is just a way of dividing your graph into two. You split the vertex set into recursively. And so to obtain a width measure with that, we take a function which takes a set of vertices and output an integer. And so the width of the rooted layout is the maximum of this function among the nodes, among the vertex set associated to the nodes, and the width of the graph is the minimum among all the rooted layouts. So this is just a formalism, you can forget about that. So now here's some example of width measures. So for example, module width. So it's defined from this function. So it is just the number of different neighborhood the vertices of A have in the complementary. So in this example, it is 4. And this is a parameter which is linearly equivalent to clique width because we have these inequalities there. Rank width. So here we take the rank of the adjacency matches between the cuts, right? So here in this example it's 2. And the maximum induced matching width, which is called mean width. So we take the size of a maximum induced matching between A and the complementary. And there is also one for the fun, maximum matching width. So if we take the size of a maximum matching, you get a parameter which is linearly equivalent to tree width. You have these inequalities. So this is very nice. I can continue so for long. But how do we compare them? So there is three aspects to consider. So the generality of the modeling power. So it is the value of these width measures on graph classes. The complexity of computing a decomposition. And the algorithmic complication. So given a decomposition, how fast can I solve this problem? So for the generality or the modeling power, so we have this. So an arrow means that if this parameter is bounded, then this one is also bounded, right? So you can see that truth is quite restrictive, and it is bounded in these graph classes. The same for click width, so it is bounded on this graph. It is bounded in this graph classes. And min width is the most general parameter. Yeah. And it is bounded in interval graph. It is nice. For the computation, so it is NPR for all these width measures. And we have efficient algorithm only for true width and rank width. And the running times is something like that. So it is to approximate, to get a decomposition which approximates the width of the graph. And for click width and min width, it is tough open questions, and it is open for a long time.
Efficient algorithm for you mean you want to mean that you find the approximate linear decomposition? Huh? Linearly approximating. Oh.
Is it okay?
Right. Because click width can also approximate. No.
Yes, yes. Removing a constant factor, yes. And
Is it open for constant factor for the approximate click?
it's yes, even for polynomial factor. And in fact, we don't know if it is XP for click width. So for the algorithmic application, so there is some meta theorems. So there is a Kursel ones, which tells that every program which is expressible in MSO2, so this is some logic, is FPT parameterized by true width, if the size of the formula is constant. And there is also the same theorem for click width, but with more restrictive logic, MSO1. And for min width, we don't have such meta theorems, but we have some meta algorithm which tells that we can solve all problems that belong to some family of problems, for example. And so this is tight in the sense that there is some problem here that are NPR for these parameters, and there is some problem here, like click, maximum click, which are NPRs for this parameter. Okay, and if you want, okay, the point with these two beta theorems here, so it is very nice to know if you want to know whether a problem is FPT parameterized with this, but the algorithm we will get is very bad because it can be a tower of exponential. It depends on the size of the formula, in fact. And if you want a more efficient algorithm, you need to get your hand dirty and you need to know how to compare. So this is the second part. So you divide your graph and now you have the decomposition and you want to solve efficiently a problem. And so the idea is always the same for all the width measures. So you have you want to solve a subproblems each time, and the subproblems is you want to compute a set of partial solutions. And partial solutions are basically something that can be part of a solution. And so the idea is that at the root you will get a solution, right? So and in fact the computation for the leaves is very simple because the leaves are associated with one vertex and you have the rest of the graph on the other side. And so to compute the set of partial solution for an internal cut, you just combine the two sets of partial solutions. And basically, it is always the same. You take a partial solution here and one here, and you take your union, and it gives a partial solution here. So it's not trivial, but it's not complicated. And in general, the running time of this step is the times of this set times the time of this set. And in fact, the running time, the final running time will be something like this times the number of cuts you have in your decomposition. So the running time of your algorithm depends on the size of the set of partial solution you manipulate, right? And so you want these sets to be small. And each time you combine two sets, the size will increase, right? So if you do not control that, you will get a combinatorial explosion at the end. So you want to reduce the size of the partial solution. You want to prove that it is enough to keep just this this number of solutions. So you have to prove that there is an upper bound of the number of partial solutions you need to keep at each step. And if it is something like that, you get an XP algorithm. And if it is something like that, you get an FPT algorithm. And this is the tough part of when you design algorithm for this Swift measures, it is the tough part. So this is why there is rainbow here. Okay, and now I will give you an example, and I will insist on the reduction step. So I will talk about connected dominating set and one neighbor width. And so connected dominating set, so you want a vertex set of your graph of minimum weight, which dominate all the vertices. So every vertice has a neighbor in the dominating set. And you want that the dominating set induce a connected graph. Right? Okay, and for the one neighbor width. So you take a set A, and you say that two sets X and Y are one neighbor equivalent if they have the same neighborhood in the complementary. Right? And now you define this function, so it is just the number of equivalence classes of this equivalence relation. And this gives you a parameter. Right? Just you have to keep in mind that two sets are equivalent if they have the same neighborhood in this the complementary. Okay, and so we know that the dominating set is available in this many times. So given the rotate layout, you can solve the dominating set in this many times. And we prove the same for connected dominating set. And because there is an upper bound of this in function of the other width measures, so we have this all these consequences on the other width measures.
Sorry, I missed what is NEC1.
NEC1 is the one neighbor width of the layout. So you take this function and it gives you a width measure. Right? Is this okay for everyone?
There's no law. So this number could go all the way up to 2 to the number of what is it? 2?
Yes, yes, yes. L is a given layout, a given decomposition of your graph. Okay. So there is two constraints in your problem, so the domination and the connectivity, right? And so I will explain first how we deal with the domination. So the idea is that you compute a set of partial solutions. So you have a cut, and you compute a set of partial solutions for each equivalence classes of the one neighbor equivalence over the complementary. And the partial solution you compute for R prime, you will complete them with a set in R prime, right? So, and because the set in R prime have the same neighborhood in A, you know which vertices in A will be dominated by the vertices on the other side, right? Oh. So a partial solution here is so a partial solution associated with R prime is so a set of vertices such that X union Y dominates the vertices of A. So for Y in R prime. And if it works for one Y, it works for every Y in R prime because they have the same neighborhood in the complementary. So it's two partial solution, for example. And so with this notion of partial solution at the end, so there is one cut, every vertex is on one side and nothing on the other side. And a partial solution is necessary dominating set. Right. So this is for the domination, and oh wait, no, no, this is not it. Okay, and now what I claim is that two partial solutions are equivalent for the domination. I mean that one will give a domination, one will give a dominating set with Y, if and only if the other will give a dominating set with Y also. So they are equivalent for the domination if they have the same neighborhood in the complementary. So if they are equivalent for the one neighbor equivalence. So for example, these two partial solutions are equivalent, right? So you just need to keep the minimum one, the one, right? And in fact, at each step, it is enough to keep a nec of A square partial solution. Is it okay? Right, so this is for the domination. And if you want to solve the dominating set, it is fine. And now, if you add a connectivity constant, what happens? And if you want to design some equivalence relation between partial solutions, like this one gives a connected dominating set with Y, then this also, you will not get efficient algorithm. Like for ClickWith, for example, two partial solutions are equivalent if they connect the labels the same way. So there is K to decay non-equivalent partial solution for the connectivity. And we want 2 to decay, so this is not enough. And we need an equivalence relation between sets of partial solution. This set is equivalent to this set. And for doing so, we define this function. So base of X and Y, so S is a set of partial solution, and Y is a set in R prime, right? And this is just the weight, the minimum weight of a set in X that gives something connected with Y, right? So it is the best answer we have from S and Y. And we say that two set of partial solution, so one set of partial solution represents R prime represents another. If we have this equality for every Y. It means that whatever I take in R prime, I will get the same quality of output, right? And yes, so with this notion, you can check that at the root of the decomposition, so you have the set you compute for the root contain an optimal solution because you have this. Is that okay? Okay, and now what we need is to compute a small representative set. And this is what this function do. So it takes a set of partial solution and output a small representative. And the small is make one square. And the unique times is fine also. Because this is supposed to be smaller than Polynek 1. So, and so to compute a small representative set, we use the ideas from the rank-based approach, which is a technique to obtain so 2 to the 2 times n time algorithm for many problems with a connective constraint. So we define a matrice. Okay. And so this is very simple. So the rows are associated with S, and the columns are associated with elements in R prime. And X and Y equals 1 if it is connected, and 0 otherwise. And what you can see is that a basis of the row space of N, of minimum weights, R prime represents S. Why? Because so you have your matrices, your big matrices, and when you take a 1 in here, you have a 1 in your basis, which is also in the same columns. So if you have for Y you have something which gives some connected stuff, then you have something in your basis that gives also some connected stuff with this Y. Right? But M is too big to be computed because R prime is very big, it can be very large. So this is not enough. And so we need to decompose M, and so I will define this. So P is the set of pairs, so of one neighbor equivalence classes of A, the complementary of A. And I will define two matrices. So this means that the rows of this matrices are associated with the elements here. And so I will define two matrices such that we have this equality over GF2. And because of this equality, a basis of C is also a basis of M. And because the size of P is very small, so it is n squared, it means that the rank of this matrix is small. And so the size of basis is small. And because this matrix is also small, this matrix is 4. And so we can compute it in this time. So we can compute a basis of C, and then this is a representative set we want. Is it okay for? Okay. And the trick here, so you take an X and a Y, and you fix one vertex in Y. And you look at the way of dividing X and Y, so such that every component is either here or here, and Vy is here on this side. And you can see that there is so 2 to the number of components minus 1 ways of dividing X and Y in that way, because we have 2 choices for every connected component, except for the one which contains Vy. So this is odd if and only if X and Y are just a connected graph, right? And this is the trick. So to obtain this equality there, I will define C this way. So means that every connected component of X has no neighbor either in R prime 1 or no neighbor in R prime 2. So I can split the connected components of X. And for C bar, I define it this way. So I can split the connected components of Y in such a way that the union of these connected components belongs to R prime 1, and Vy is here. And the union of this is equivalent to R prime 2. And with these definitions, I obtain this equality there. And this implies that, and this implies that a basis of C is a R prime representative set of S. And at the end, it's okay. And okay, so here's for connected dominating set. And in fact, we can generalize this to other local constraints. So, for example, vertex cover, 2 domination, 3 domination, total domination, and a lot of local constraints when you are. And we prove that for any connected variance, so we ask the solution to induce connected graph of sigma rho dominating set problems. So it is problems which is local, with a local constraint. We have an algorithm with this one in time. And this is a generalization of the one neighbor equivalence. and D belongs to is an integer. And so this includes some connected vertex cover and node weighted Steiner tree, for example. And we have the same consequences on the other wish measures also. Yes, and we prove this. So we prove that we have the same algorithm for the other wish measures when we add an acyclic constraint. So for example, the acyclic variant of a sigma domination. So we ask the solution to induce a forest, and the acyclic and collective variant is we ask the solution to induce a tree. And this includes so programs like feedback vertex set and longest induced path. And so we did not prove that we have an algorithm with this many times. Because at some point we have to use the specificity of the different wish measures here. Sorry?
You also use a similar rank race?
Yes. Yes, you will see. Do I have the time or? 5 minutes. Okay, maybe no. Okay, so here's the definition of the D-neighbor equivalence. You don't need that. And okay, the idea is that if two sets are two neighbor equivalents, then so you take a set here, and the set of vertices which have two neighbors, at least two neighbors in this set, is the same as the set of vertices that have at least two neighbors in this set. This is the vertices that matters for the acyclicity. And we can prove that there is not a lot of them. So this is if a partial solution leads to a solution, then there is almost a 2 min width, 2 rank width, and module width number. The number of vertices is bounded by this. So we have a total control on these vertices, and then we have a total control on the number of edges we add on the other side. So yes, and for the acyclicity we define this notion also. So it is always the same. So here instead of connected we say a tree, right? So it is we just add the acyclicity constraint, and it is always the same. So we have RC represents. So we have this equality. And to compute something which RC represents, so we take a set of partial solution, we remove some partial solution, and then we decompose this set of partial solution, and in such a way that representative for the acyclicity and the connectivity is also representative for the connectivity. So we can use our formal reduction. And we can use the notion of our function for the connectivity here. And then we take the union of this, and this gives a representative for the acyclicity and the connectivity. And T is small also. And this is because we have this lemma there, that T is small there. Okay, so thanks to the D-neighbor equivalence, we have done the best algorithm for many problems. So all sigma rho dominating set and their variants, and for many wish measures. And so the ones I talk about, and Q rank width also, and tree width. And for click width and tree width, the algorithm we obtain are optimal under OTH. But for rank width, it is open. So can we do better than that? This is a nice question. So even for that discover, we don't know if we can do better than that. So, and can we apply this approach on other problems? So, for example, these three problems: Hamiltonian cycle, max cut, and edge magnetic set, are W1 hard parameterized by click width, and we can solve them in this one in times for tree width and click width, and this is optimal under ETH. And okay, can we unify this the algorithm we have for these problems? the same way we do for singular dominating set problems. And the thing is that using the G-neighbor equivalence with D a constant is useless because we have an XP algorithm here, and this is optimal. So an idea is that if we put D the number of vertices, maybe we can obtain some nice stuff, because this is, if we have an algorithm like this, then we get this running times there. And in fact, I can prove that I can solve Maxwell in this running time. Okay, and the dream will be to have some so you have some logic or constants to express problems, and the dream will be to have a theorem which say, okay, I give you a problem, and then the theorem says, okay, this is the best algorithm for these parameters and these parameters. This is, for example, for dominating set acyclic and connected, if we have these constraints, then we have this. Okay, thank you.